Well, here we are, another update, and what we're looking at is the last bit of track I have to lay. All the track is laid, so I'm going to get this done, and then we're going to go back and look at everything that's happened since the last update. Well, there we go. The last bit of track has been laid. It's been about 2 years and 5 months since I started, so 2.5 years we'll say. Got pretty far. Went a little faster than I thought. I actually envisioned that I'd be laying track and doing scenery and then laying more track, but something about it, I just wanted to get it operational because, when you operate your layout, you start to see some things that either need to be tuned or didn't work out as well as you thought. And we saw that up in Clifftop. I just wasn't happy with the way the trains are flowing up in there. And so now I've got Landisburg in and I'll be operating in there, and so far I've done a little bit in there. I haven't had anything jump out at me that I don't like, but we'll see when I actually get out the cards and we see what the trains really do up in there. But down here I had to do just a little bit in that video I posted last time where we were just running some trains. If you were watching as the train went through that turnout, it had a little bit of a hop in the cars. And really what happened is I've laid these tracks. I never really came down here because there's so much other things to do. And when you hand lay tracks, sometimes they go through some seasonal movements. And I never came down here to check. And the gauge around here got a little bit tighter down in here and here. And so what happens is the back of the wheels will actually ride up on these bumps in here. If you see my video on hand laying track, you'll see that I point out that that's a really important distance to maintain. And if you get that too tight between here, your cars will actually hop up when it hits that throat of the frog there. So I just had to adjust the guardrails a little bit. It's working good now. And down here, I never was happy with the geometry of this turnout. If you look at this line right here, this is I don't know, a joist or whatever you want to call it that runs underneath there. And when I first built the turnout, I put the points or the throw bar on this side of that board, and it was too short. It just went really quickly, changed direction, and this turnout's kind of long and it looked kind of funny. But when I moved the turnout points way out here so I could get on the other side of this, it made the turnout look strange because I had this really quick angle here to come in, and then it went really long again. So I actually took out all the ties starting right here. You can see these longer ones all the way back to here, and I made new ties in there. And you can see the ends where I clipped them off there. Now I'm going to come by and clip these off over here, but I just left them all the same. And then I relayed and re-gauged all this and through here to move this kind of over so the turnout length matches a little better, and it comes in here at a much better taper. And I also straightened out this rail. It kind of came over and it followed, and it kind of made it bow right here, and I think that's also what threw off my geometry on that. So I'm a lot happier with that turnout. So this is all working good in here. I can use all 3 tracks now, which will be important for operating down in here with the lumber trains. So not much is going on in here, just slowly expanding the webbing, but now with the tracks laid, I think throughout the summer here, I'm going to start to get most of this in here. And the reason why I've been kind of dragging my feet on this is I really couldn't figure out a good way how to know how I wanted to make the rock outcroppings in here, because on the Mans Creek, there's these really neat outcroppings of rock where the slope is kind of going one way and then the rocks come out from that slope and then drop down. And to try to pre-imagine how that's going to look, I just couldn't do it. I tried a little bit up here. You can see where I've made some pieces come out. But I think what I'm going to do is what I did over here on this test section. It really actually isn't a test section. It was originally on the other layout I had at the old house. And what I did was I made the scenery slope up. Let's see if this will balance here. At one angle. And then what I actually did is I dry cast the rocks and I put them more vertical, and then I backfilled them into the hill. And so you have little things like little gullies that kind of run up in here. And I think that that's how I'm going to end up doing this. I just, some people can imagine that and visualize all that stuff ahead of time. I just don't think I can work that way. I have to play with it with real objects and kind of move stuff around. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make all the scenery just kind of slope up from one to the next. and then I'll build, so I'll cover that with plaster, and then I'm gonna build out onto that the rocks and kind of reshape that and just use this as a base to build off of. I think that's my kind of workflow I'll work better with. The foam stuff too, it just doesn't work for me. I don't know why. I just can't do it. Now that I'm kind of know my flow, I'm gonna come across here and fill all this in. It's been a little hair raising running trains up on that back line. It's a long ways down. Not that if they fell down there and rolled all the way down, it would be any better, but maybe I could have a chance to grab them before they hit the floor below. Up here, I have installed more squealers. I put one in down in the middle down here. One of those things that's kind of weird about those is once you've got them, and when the trains kind of come through an area like this track here where there's squealers all along here now, and as soon as they get around this corner, it just goes silent. It just kind of felt weird. So I'm gonna put one, or I did put one here, and I'm gonna put another one down here, and I'll explain something in a minute here, because there's a squealer, or what I'm gonna do down there is what I did over here, which is, let's see, there's a squealer right here, and I'm gonna put the speaker in the middle here, and what I actually did is I put another squealer sensor right here, so these two go to the same squealer, and the reason why is because there wouldn't be a train passing through these two spots at the same time, so I can kind of double duty this the squealer that's at the turnout here. And that's exactly what I'm going to do down here, is I'm going to put two sensors, one here and here, but actually one squealer and one speaker. So when a train comes in here and it's moving, it'll trigger it, and then it'll come to a stop. If it's passing one, that one will trigger it. So you kind of get a little bit more use out of one squealer. And then I might put one up there, I'm not sure. Definitely going to put one over at mine 7 in that tight corner, and probably put one down here doing the same thing. I'm probably going to put a sensor here and one here, and I think I'm going to put one more squealer down here. So while we're up at cliff top, another thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring up the creek here 1 more inch. So originally I put this piece down here and I layered this up here, but this is too far down for what it really looks like there at cliff top. So to kind of simulate what I'm really going to do is I'm actually going to move this over, or just fill this in with more foam, but this will now be the creek bottom, and then this will come up more in here, and I think it gives a better representation. When I get down here, this will be the creek bottom here, so I'm going to fill this out to the edge here, rather than having this 2-inch drop off. It's just going to have the 1-inch drop off to the creek. I'll make this a little more vertical right here. I'm not sure if I talked about this, but I am starting to add this road in here. I really like the way this looks. It's just a very gradual slope up right here from behind the company store, which, the road actually went this way and this track wasn't here, but I think I'm gonna make this just kind of curve off the layout, kind of come off over here somewhere. And the same down here, it's just gonna kind of come up and kind of just disappear off the edge here, and I'm not going to really try to explain why it doesn't come back on. But what I like about this is, for some reason, it makes this scene feel deeper, even though it didn't really do anything. And I think it's because you're looking down into it. The other thing is this road will give me a buffer, a place where I don't have to have trees or anything on there. So it keeps it so you can reach across here, really easy without knocking anything down. There'll just be some some tall weedy grasses, but nothing really crazy. And then just some scattered junk down in here. So I think that'll really, I really like looking down kind of in these scenes, right here. So if I didn't have this on here, you'd see the slope off, and you'd catch the edge of the layout more, where I like the look of this a lot better. It's going to be easier to take pictures when there's more of an edge on the front. Same with coming down here like this. And here we are over in Landisburg, and you can see things have kind of gone along here. Track now comes down this grade down in here, and it goes through 3 turnouts on this side of the stream, and I added this bridge down here. I did extend the layout. The old edge of the layout was right where this was, and I extended this out a little bit here. And because of that, I also had to adjust the lighting valance up here. And if you look way back, I actually had a really narrow lighting valance up here and I didn't like it. So this is actually the same as what's over in Cliff Top. So it's much deeper. It's 3 times deeper than it used to be. And I just think it looks better when you look up in here. So up in here at these joints, these are glued, but there's a little piece of bended aluminum back here. I actually use the same flashing that I use for my LED strip installation. And then I will go ahead and fill all these with joint compound and sand all this and paint that all black. And I'm gonna paint the ceiling black up in here to blend that all together. If we come back in here and talk about the tracks, now if you look back at the very first video, actually it's kind of the prequel to the first video where I go through the new, I think it's called new ON3 layout. And you look at Landisburg, it's a lot different than now than in that video. And what's really different here is, first of all, I put this connecting track in there, which wasn't there. In that video, this would have been the main line. This would have been the runaround. I was gonna have a mine right here. It was gonna kind of come down a little bit farther down here, and it was going to go back to a bridge scene down here and through a tunnel, but that's when it was gonna be more fictional. Of course, the Mans Creek doesn't have any tunnels, so I opened this up, and I really like this. It's really nice to operate here. I did put the curve back in there. If you look earlier on, I had a curve in there and I didn't like it, so I straightened it out. But once I opened that up, it didn't make sense that they would go straight through this rock here, so I made it kind of curve out like it's moving around the rock. It might bother me a little bit that that turnout kind of looks like it's aiming towards the rock, but I might put something over here to give a reason why they made that S right there rather than just going straight through there. We'll cross that bridge later. I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't like how tall this is here. I'm going to actually build this up to this level here, and it's going to actually come up in this corner now. So I'll have to build some structure back in here to bring that up. I think that'll help the look in here. I think this just looks too mountainous, having this drop down here. It's too deep for one thing, and it just doesn't look right. Really, the creek should be this low right here. And I like this here, but now this will just come off the layout here, and the edge will be just more like this. I'm gonna fill this up here too. So it just feels really strange in here to have this fall off so far right here. So why else is this different than the model? Well, when I did the model and the track plan, I thought that I would be running re-gauged Bachmann ON30 climaxes in here. And I thought I would be doing log cars and flat cars, and I wouldn't have to worry about them not making sharper corners. One of the things about the hopper cars is that these footboards actually can't handle anything sharper than a 30-inch radius curve. They'll actually touch and they'll hook each other and derail the cars. So all the layout is 30-inch radius, but I thought, well, they're not going to come down in here, so I'll make it be 24-inch radius and I'll use number 4 turnouts. But when I built some of these log cars, the wheels become so close, they get so close to the center sills that they can't go on anything sharper than the 30-inch radius curve either. So when I had this lead that first came through here and it hit this, it kind of came off, I was actually going to reverse this turnout right here, take this out and make it come straight through here. And then it was going to go single track over the creek here, and then have all these number 4 turnouts with all these sharp, 22 and 24-inch radius curves. But in reality, that just wasn't going to work right. And the more I thought about it, I didn't want to have equipment limited, to going only in certain areas. There might be a reason why, that someone might back a coal hopper down in here or something. So what I did is I decided to make it go all back to 30-inch radius. And the turnouts are like 5 or 5.5. And actually what they really are is they're all 6s in here. This is kind of a weird turnout right here because the frog is back here and the points are over here. I kind of thought that maybe I'd bring the points in and have the actual points on the bridge here, and what I would have done is run a rod down and just painted it black and have the switch machine underneath here. But when I started looking underneath, this area is so patched together from trying to reuse the old layout that this was actually the better spot for the switch machine. So I thought I'll just kind of make it almost like a semi gauntlet track in here. And it's kind of weird because it's kind of sharp here to bend around following the creek. And then it kind of comes in this long turnout, and it just has these really short points. But it operates good, and it's just kind of a unique look in there. This is kind of a semi-curved turnout in here with a straight lead, which I don't like curved turnouts, but if they have a straight lead, they're good, you know, for me right there. And then there's just a standard number 6 turnout right here that comes across on a 30-inch radius curve. And now I added this on because I couldn't get a 30-inch radius. So this, you have really two 30-inch radius curves right here next to each other. And the only difference is that because this is on a turnout, it kind of starts it at a little bit of an angle, and that's why they come off. You know, they can be right next to each other. If you look, they actually spread out a little bit here because the radius starts a little bit at a different angle here. So this is 30 inches, and I literally just laid an arc all the way along here and came like this, and I was able to get another turnout to go out that way. And what this gives me is this is going to be built around this corner. It's going to be a building, and it'll have a little extension on the side for an engine house or for servicing engines. And then I get this track on the outside that I can store some things on, you know, like maybe like a log loader or, you know, I don't know what, you know, it just gave me one more place to put equipment for storage or for, you know, temporarily placing something there. And that's kind of what this track is going to be too. It's and I might have some lumber stacks down in here. I'm not sure yet, but this track, that one, and that one are all for loading. This one's going to have a shed type structure, be in a shed. I'm not sure yet really what the purpose of that's going to be, but I want to put a building that's going to kind of come out a little bit farther to take your eye off the fact that the creek's going to go into the backdrop. Matter of fact, that building is going to be up on stilts, so the creek will go underneath it. Now, the log cars you see here are on one of the original sections of the first layout I built, which if you go back to, I think it's Model Road Planning 2010, this is the upper level there where that was a mine, and I think this shows a picture of me standing next to some houses here. And this is actually the oldest track I've ever had because this track was built, you know, installed probably in 2011. So, you know, we're like 23 or 13 years later. And I've never had a layout last more than 10 years. So that's actually officially the oldest track from here down on that I've ever had. So it's kind of fun to incorporate it. If I didn't have it, would I do it again? No, because it kind of has a different, you know, the spacing here is a little bit different, but it's okay. It's going to be a yard. It'll be buried and stuff in there anyways. So overall, this has been operating good. You know, I'm going to fill this in with some foam and stuff. You'll never see that it's on that thin piece. And you might be asking, why did I use that thin piece of plywood in there? Well, it's strong enough to span from here to here. But the reason why is that this is up on cork, and it originally was a piece there. And before I knew I was going to put a turnout in here, it just went straight through because I was going to kind of abandon the idea of having this engine terminal here, and I was going to do a three-way turnout right here. No, actually, I was going to do a switchback. You can see where I drew it. I was going to come up in here and then switch back a single track, and I just thought that was kind of a corny way to do it. So I put this turnout up here, but in order to do that and kind of have it all flow through here, this was the same thickness as the cork. So if I just sliced the cork there and kind of cut at an angle, I was able to glue this piece down in here to make a smooth transition. Came across as one piece. I kind of put it into a little socket here and glued it all. And then I slid these braces up on the face of the original board down there. And then I filled this in, put this piece here. And then I cut this out after this is all dried and solid in here. And then I built this little bridge and I laid it in here and just spiked solid rail across. So I am going to have to kind of figure out how I'm going to do the scenery underneath these because they are permanently installed with that turnout there and the solid rails, but I think I can do it. I think it'll be good. I did paint it a dark color, so if the soil and stuff doesn't totally cover, you won't see the white plaster underneath. A couple other things I'd like to talk about here in Landisburg is one of them is these lumber stacks I'm kind of working on now. This is just a 3D printed, this one's not even cured yet. There's gonna be a lot of these stacks of lumber up in here. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to 3D print them all because they just take too much wood to build them all. And I'm going to build a bunch of these frames here and I'll paint them, and that way I can put them in the scenery. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to 3D print these different stacks of lumber. I've got like 15 of these now kind of designed up and supported. I print them actually vertical like this, so it does take a long time to print them, but I get a whole build plate of these things. So it does make, like, even though it might take me an entire like day to print these, really one build plate is one stack of lumber. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of pre-paint these things and then glue these on in just different orders here so that the stacks have a lot of variety to them. And, because these stacks are going to be tall. They're probably going to be like this tall. I'm going to vary them as I go. But there's so many that I just don't think that making them out of strip wood is going to be practical. First of all, it'll take me forever and it'll cost me a fortune. And it really will be scenery. And I just don't think you're going to be able to see that it's not real wood. This is not like weathered wood, so it's not going to have all kinds of grain and splits and different things. It should be all pretty fresh wood. I've got a couple of color pictures that show some different shades and some blackening, but I think I can airbrush all that stuff and I think it'll look a lot better in here now because this whole area is just going to be filled with these things. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is the lighting in here. I did a video on how I install my LED strips. You can go back and you can look at that, and that's exactly what I've done in here. Behind here, you can see the aluminum window flashing right here. I did bend the flange here. See if I can get this to focus. It is bent in half to make this edge stronger. It's up on a 1x2. The 1x2 is screwed to the ceiling here, and then the lighting valance is just nailed with a brad nailer to the other side of the 1x2. And then I just use the self-tapping sheet metal screws to hold this up here. It really goes fast. I put the LED strips down first, and then I just solder little jumpers on here where they go around the corner. Here you can see the window flashing. I glued to go over the joint between the two different valances here. I've got the cool white and the warm white, and then what I don't have turned on right now are the multicolor ones that I set to blue. And you can see in here, this is really deep. There's not more, there's just two strips up there, and they're angled, and angling them is the trick. I've seen people try to use these in their layout and have them straight down, and they have to put multiple rows, and then you can see them in there. I can't stress enough that having them at an angle, all you need are two strips. This is probably 4 feet deep, 3.5 feet deep anyway, so that back corner, and it's just as well lit. Really, as you look, there's even lighting all the way through here. And again, just two strips. That's all it's on. I don't think you need anything more. This whole layout looks really nice. You don't see any of the lighting anywhere. It's, if you lean over, you see it. But when you're back here, it looks really nice. So I'm really happy with that. Of course, I will have a valance down there to cover that up, so it's like that. But I can't stress enough that these are just fantastic ways to light layouts. It's relatively high. If this is HO scale, this would be, bottom level might even be lower than this. This is pretty high right here. I guess I don't have a tape measure. I'm estimating 16 inches. But that's up. So this is 2 feet from up here to the light. And it's plenty light enough. Well, that'll do it for this update. It's now the beginning of summer, so I've got a lot of stuff I'll kind of get to outside. And I'm just going to operate this for a little while and tune it until fall. And then we're going to start to see some scenery take shape. It's going to be fun. I'm going to change the work pace a little bit. I've been working like an animal on this thing, and it's, had its days, but I got a big mess to clean up, put away a lot of tools, clean it, and then just enjoy it for a little while and see what operating can do. Operations will start out solo with just me playing with some of my ideas, and then I'll kind of gradually bring it where I'll invite some people over and see how it goes. Once I decide on operating, I'll build some shelves and some boxes and finish the fascia, and then really kind of get into the scenery and start building some more structures. So again, thanks for watching these updates.